There are no complaints about the RAV4's corrosion resistance, but the condition of some body parts raises complaints with age. On average, after 4 years, the rear wiper arm wears out, which is why even a new blade does not clean the glass well. The leash needs to be replaced. The spare tire hangs on the rear hinge door. Over time, due to the heavy weight, along with the spare wheel, the door hinges sag and it does not close well. Treatment: replacement of loops. As practice has shown, the automatic transmission needs regular, every 40,000 kilometers, oil change along with the filter. If you change it less often, the unit may fail. In 2008, the model was restyled, the front and rear optics, radiator grille, bumpers were redone, the exterior mirrors acquired turn signal repeaters, and the trunk lid received a spoiler. The interior was decorated with a new steering wheel, audio system, and automatic transmission selector. In general, the interior of all versions looks very original. The key design element is the two-tier layout of the dashboard and center console. This improves ergonomics, since each tier contains a group of controls for various systems. The ease of control in all versions can be criticized for the lack of information on the instrument panel about the automatic transmission modes, and in the American versions for the lack of electric headlight adjustment and the non-folding design of the side mirrors. 5 people can sit inside, but the gallery is a bit cramped for 3 large passengers. At the same time, the seating comfort of even tall people is increased by wide-range adjustment of the backrest angle, a low central floor tunnel, as well as a sliding design of the rear seat cushions, divided in a 60-40 ratio. The equipment of even the basic variants is quite good, and the expensive ones have keyless entry and engine start systems, a heated windshield in the area of the wiper blades, electric adjustment of the front seats, not to mention leather trim. The plastic trim is harsh and can creak over time, usually the dashboard. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro. Luggage compartment volume is average compared to competitors. And if you often have to transport cargo, we advise you to pay attention to the extended versions. We were mainly supplied with only petrol modifications of the RAV4, most often a 2.0-liter unit, less often a 2.4-liter unit, and the least popular engine was the flagship 3.5-liter American version. The category of exotics also includes turbo-diesel modifications of the SUV. All gasoline engines are equipped with VVTi variable valve timing and ignition systems with individual coils for each spark plug, with iridium electrode tips, and a durable metal chain is used in the timing belt. On most engines, these systems and parts work without problems. The drive belt of the attachment lasts about 100,000 kilometers. The most common 2.0-liter unit is the most reliable. A feature of the operation of all engines is the need for regular cleaning of cooling radiators. Once every 1 to 2 years, the load on the air conditioning compressor increases, and fuel injectors, every 50 to 60,000 kilometers, unstable idling. By the way, the 2.4-liter unit is more afraid of overheating than others. It is important to know that RAV4 units are not subject to overhaul. Their cylinder blocks are made of aluminum alloy, and there are not even repair dimensions for the cylinder piston group. Most of the complaints are about the flagship 3.5-liter engine. When replacing the lubricant at intervals of more than 10,000 kilometers, the channels become clogged at intervals of 100,000 kilometers, which leads to oil starvation of the mechanisms in the cylinder head. In this unit, failure of air conditioning compressors, generators, and, after 100,000 kilometers, individual ignition coils was also noted. All RAV4s are equipped with an Optitron instrument cluster that only comes to life when the ignition is turned on. Visibility from the driver's seat is excellent. The design of the two-tier dashboard is original. If necessary, the center diff clutch can be locked using a button on the center console. The front-rear torque is redistributed in a ratio of 55-45. As in its predecessor, the rear seats have a sliding design. They move back and forth on a slide by 165 mm, allowing you to change the trunk volume or the amount of space available to the front seats depending on the situation. American versions with an extended wheelbase are easily distinguished by a noticeably larger rear side window triangle, the absence of turn signal repeaters on the front fenders, and a plastic antenna on the front right fender. The lion's share of all RAV4s are equipped with automatic transmissions. Manual versions are rare. In 2010, the traditional automatic transmission was replaced by a stepless variator. As operating experience has shown, serious problems can arise with classic automatic transmissions during extended oil change periods. Mechanics claim that for the automatic machine to operate smoothly, the lubricant in it must be changed at least every 40,000 kilometers, and together with the filter. Common diseases of manual and automatic transmissions include leaking gearbox axle seals, usually the left one, and after a mileage of 80,000 kilometers, the transfer case shank seal may lose its seal. All-wheel drive in all RAV4s is pluggable. The rear axle is engaged using an electromagnetic clutch. On hard surfaces, the car is front-wheel drive, but as soon as any of the wheels on the front axle begins to slip, the torque is immediately redistributed to the rear. The functions of interwheel diffs are imitated by electronics, braking the slipping wheel. In this generation of RAV4, designers have combined the operation of all-wheel drive, traction control and steering systems with the IADS, Integrated Active Drive System, control system. On slippery surfaces or when actively cornering, it clearly activates the listed systems, helping the car maintain directional stability. Versions with automatic transmission were equipped with Downhill Assist Control, DAC. In general, all active safety systems work well, and problems arise only on the oldest copies. Corrosion can eat the contacts of the rear axle electric coupling connector, and then the car becomes only front-wheel drive. The RAV4's chassis is moderately compact, which, together with the IADS system, allows for active driving. Both front and rear have independent suspension with anti-roll bars. In front, McPherson, in the rear, multi-link, 4 levers each. Compared to its predecessor, the suspension is more durable. Most often, you will have to change the consumables of stabilizers, bushings after 50 to 60,000 kilometers, struts after 100,000 kilometers. If you carelessly overcome obstacles, the front wheel bearings may fail by 60 to 80,000 kilometers. By 100,000 kilometers, the front shock absorbers wear out, the rear shock absorbers last about 150,000 kilometers, the silent blocks of the front levers last 100 to 150,000 kilometers, and the ball shock absorbers last even longer. In the rear suspension, by 150,000 kilometers, the upper wishbone wears out, the rest of the mechanics have not yet changed. Branded consumables for suspensions are replaced as an assembly with levers, but in non-original ones they can be found separately. In a rack and pinion steering system with electric power steering, the rack bushing breaks after 50 to 60,000 kilometers on our roads. The rods last about 100,000 kilometers, and the tips even longer. In a brake system with disc mechanisms, the rear calipers need to lubricate the guides every 20 to 40,000 kilometers, otherwise, they begin to jam. For those who often have to use the luggage compartment, we advise you to take a closer look at the extended versions. Their cargo compartment is noticeably larger, especially with the rear row of seats folded, 540/1750 liters versus 500/1469 liters for the Europeans. As the operating experience of the third-generation Toyota RAV4 has shown, this model is more reliable than its predecessor. Used copies can be recommended for purchase by both men and women. But at the same time, you should carefully check the serviceability of the automatic transmission. The key to its durability, as well as other components and assemblies, lies in timely maintenance. And then a used RAV4 will delight you with more than 1,000 kilometers of trouble-free driving. Although it is worth considering that the car itself, as well as its spare parts and maintenance, are not cheap.